It looks like such a simple shoe, but you know what? It tells a huge story. In fact, it tells two huge stories. One of them is all about how lines of shoes, especially lines of sneakers, they actually start kind of low and they build on you. And this has definitely happened with the KD14s. They've started pretty low. We've had a couple of iterations already. There was a psychedelic one, and then there was also a more recent one. I can't remember the name of it. We've had two. It was, you know what it was? It was the KYD14, the tie-up between Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And then we get this today, a very much simpler shoe, but it's been building. It's been gradually getting there, starting kind of low, bubbling away, and then sort of pulling out the stops a little bit later in the game. So instead of starting hard and fast, they start kind of low and build up on it. And it's happened with other shoes, and we're going to talk about that in today's video. But also, there's an element about today's video about the simpler something gets, the easier it is to see. When you overcomplicate things and there's too much going on, it's hard actually to see what's going on and see all the details and see the kind of nuances of something. And when it gets simple like this today, then you get to see what's really going on and see the actual details behind all the bluff and bluster and all the kind of bells and whistles. So it's kind of two big stories in one for me in this. It's all about starting low and actually bringing the game late, kind of coming late to the party, if you like, but then also about how you have to simplify to actually see what's going on. And then, of course, it's a great looking shoe with tons of great hits on it. So we're going to get into this and take a look at the upcoming release of the Nike KD14 Home White. This is the Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel です。毎日アップするので、毎日見てください。Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And I did some calculations, did some maths, got the calculator out. Actually, I asked Dr. Google, and all I did was I pumped in how many days since December the 18th, no, it's December the 9th, 2018 to today, and it said something like 905 or 906 days, which means I've been producing content for YouTube every day, 7 days a week, no skipping, no weekends, no holidays, no taking a day off here or there, every day consecutive for 900 plus days, which means we're on the verge of 1,000 consecutive days on YouTube, and I'm kind of thrilled about getting there, but I'm not giving up, not taking it for granted that this last 100 days into that 1,000 consecutive days will happen. Takes a bit of work. It's still 3 odd months before we get to that. So, but great to be sort of on the edge of that. I think it's a pretty impressive feat if I can get to 1,000 consecutive days on YouTube. But that aside, this shoe, I'm talking about two different things. One is about how things start low, and there were two particular things that really echoed for me with this shoe about the KD14s, the first few colorways that came out. Not many people interested, myself included, not really feeling the shoe. Some details that were just like, they're a bit of a miss, and some colorways that were like, they're quite a lot of a miss. But then they're kind of bringing it. This shoe feels like the breaking point where they're actually finding their pace, finding their zone, finding their kind of area. What's the word? Is like there's a word for it, like their wheelhouse or something like that. Finding it's in your wheelhouse and sticking to your lane, all that kind of stuff. And this seems like the shoe that they're doing that with the Kevin Durant 14 line. They've found their pace, found their lane. And I think about two other shoes in relation to that. I think about the Kyrie line. The great shoes like the Kyrie 5s I often talk about being a great shoe, the Aket. But it feels like the Kyrie 7s, they've hit their stride, if you like, with the line. And 1 through 6, some of them are great shoes, but the 7s feel like a much more complete shoe. And the same if you think about LeBron's, for example. It was round about the 7 or the 8s that they hit their stride. So it happens with like the whole line, and the Kyrie line and the LeBron line hitting their stride after a few different iterations. But it also happens like these guys today is, it takes a few colorways in a particular silhouette to actually start sort of getting it right. So that's kind of like my feel of the shoe in its place in the kind of gallery of shoes and sneakers that are out there right now. And then on top of that, we've got that simplify to see the details. And I already showed you the previous two iterations, the psychedelic ones, and what was the other one I already said? It was the KYDs, which are a sort of echo of the Kyrie Irving 1 Dream, and then the tie-up between Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant for the Kevin Durant 14 Dream. But they're very complicated shoes, lots of details going on, lots of hits in the upper, lots of colours all over the place, and it's actually hard to see the shoe itself because there's so much going on, so many frilly bits that take away from the actual shoe itself. And then you get a shoe like this today that's is almost like a triple white. There's a few hits of black and the branding on there, and one particular hit of yellow and some hits of grey as well, but basically it's a triple white shoe, and because of that it's stripped right back and you can see it for what it is, and it's actually a lot nicer than I thought it was. So let's have a quick look at some of the details on it that makes it a great looking shoe. We'll start with that upper on there, the triple white upper, or the white on white upper. One of the things about the KD 14 line is it has this sort of outer shell of kind of fabric upper, and then underneath that you have a second layer behind the mesh, and often that's a double layer of colour, like multicolour on the outside and then blue below or something like that. But in the case of these guys it's basically white on white, and because that upper layer has that textured feel in certain places and then a bare feel in others, it does get a sort of sense of quality and a sense of kind of texture to it, and which is hard to do when you've got white on white. White on white is one of the hardest colorways to pull off, but they certainly do it here, and it really reveals that upper on there. When it's overly colored and overly complicated, it's hard to really get a sense of the upper, but today's shoe gives us a real strong sense of that. And then back from that we get up onto the what do we call it, the strap, which is coming back for the first time in 7 years on a Kevin Durant, for the third time. Kevin Durant 4s, 7s and now 14s, and there is some, you know, I said it in the previous two videos about them, and not a huge fan of the way that the strap tapers with a swoosh. If they took that swoosh off there and it just tapers to a very sort of smooth finish, yes, that's okay, but because they put a swoosh on there, the swoosh has a really awkward shape to it, which swooshes don't usually do. They're very sort of straight lined on both sides as they taper off. So that's one kind of issue with it, but the strap itself is actually very cool in this shoe. Hopefully this picture here will give you an idea of how translucent it is, because it has a certain degree of translucence and not just solid white, and of course the black swoosh on that gives it great definition. And then when we go around to the medial side, you can see that on there you've got the strap coming right around, splitting into 4 parts, so you've got a bit of flexibility in the strap. It's hard to see on this shoe, but take my word for it, above those sort of segmented parts it says something like 14th, and then below them it's hard to see again, but there's actually 14 tally marks, 5, 5, 4, and they look like claw marks, like a bear has clawed into the side of the shoe. So some pretty nice details on there, but they're kind of lost. It's one of the few things that's lost in this shoe because of that triple white effect. And then not too far away from that, going up onto the tongues and onto the insoles, a real sense of the padding and the support you get in the ankle on this shoe. With that padding looking down from above, you can see the padding around the ankle and how that would support you and give you stability, but also the branding on there being in black. I talked earlier about the hits being black on this basically triple white shoe, and you get a sense of the KD that you get on the tongue and also the KD you get on the insole, and the K not quite being finished. It's just sort of the front end, the mouth of the K, and not the actual standing part of it there, and you get that very, very clear on the shoe. And then round to the back and having a look at the heel, it's the place where they have the option to play or not, and in the case of this shoe they've decided not to play. A very simple looking ruffled kind of layered heel. It does have a sense of having 2 colours, a lighter and a darker grey on there. I'm not sure if that's to do with the light when they shot the pictures, or if it's actually to do with the fabric and the materials, but you see the back of the shoe is very sort of sleek and discreet and fits in with the rest of the colourway. And then forward from that, on the midfoot, with the midsole meets the upper, and there's that Zoom Air unit, I think I'm right in saying is what this there, and I said before it looks like kind of a mouth, and in the case of these guys, yellow, wrapped around with white on white, and I like it when they do that. It was the KYDs, I think, that they did that. I think it was red. It might have been yellow, but whatever the colour in the middle was, it was surrounded by black and the midsole was black. In the case of this, yellow surrounded by white and the midsole is white, but the first psychedelic ones, it was 3 colours. The middle colour, the surround colour, and then the midsole a different colour. It was very jarring. So I like to see it that they've gone with that sort of white surround and white midsole. I think it balances pretty neatly. And then looking to the outsole of these guys, it's the first time I've seen KD 14s with a textured and a multicolour outsole. Usually it's blocked, and you know, have a colour here, a color here, and a color here. But you can see on the case of these guys, there's a white and grey patterning effect going on the outsole, which I haven't seen before, but the rest of the outsole is standard for KD14s with the different segments looking through to the midsole on there. So all in all, it's a great looking shoe, a very clean shoe. It's the first KD14 that I've looked at and thought that's a nice looking shoe, and it is because it's stripped back and it's pulled all the way back to that kind of simple style and simple colorway, and it absolutely works for me. It reveals a lot about the shoe and especially about the upper, but it's still a clean shoe and a very nice addition to the basketball line, to the KD14s. They're hitting their stride at last, finally reaching that kind of shoe, the colorway, the signature colorway for the line. That's like, they've worked it out, they've hit their stride at the Kevin Durant line. And with that being said, it's time to just wrap this one up. I said 905 odd days, consecutive days on YouTube, now 906 if you count this video, and I appreciate you guys out there for watching the content as we keep on chugging on and chugging on. Hopefully that'll continue for another 3 months or so, and we'll get to 1,000 consecutive days on YouTube. But for now, the only thing I can do is tell you that I do this every single day, and because of that, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.